nothing to be done for Gravitas here.
They're even aware of it. Kozio here, and that is the ultimate connected.
Themselves into a false hold. Final 20 minutes on this goal.
Only player to lock in this lane. There is just no damage for the Chiefs.
Braden gets the first pentakill of the LCO.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for day 2 of the DoorDash LCO for Split 2. We have a big day coming up this evening, and to kick things off as well, we get a grand final rematch, but with a slight little roster change there. Now, before we do get underway with all of the action, make sure you drop that hashtag DoorDash in chat, and you do order yourself some dinner, but before you do, check out all the action from yesterday.
He's got a GA! He's gone to the afterlife, 1v3, can he do it? Their minions are still punching on, they're still getting rowdy about it. He might just die for the second time in a row, but still life leeching, still surviving, still getting haymakers to the dome. Still forced on down, and the minions will end the game. If they find Halo, but that's now Violet finding one, finding two, he's excited and he's riding members down. Violet from the flank, Violet from the side, ultimate connects on absolutely no one. But he's got a GA and he still has protection. Alodoric may just trickle down, but survives on 10%. One final hurt, one final play, and one final way to say, look at this play, making sure that everything goes their way. Out goes the kick, there goes the Nocturne, everybody trying to do whatever they can. The Wukong with the Cyclone, 1, 2, and 3, they all get knocked up, but there's nobody falling on down. Everybody's having a good time, but nobody's looking to try and get themselves on the clock, because that's Biopanther being huge. Gets himself a triple kill, Rusty. That means that the Rumble is dead and deleted. Frostbite is on the second. He gets himself a shutdown. People getting knocked up. Puma trying to do whatever he can from above. He might just take them all. He certainly will. He just needs to wait for the CD. He just needs to wait for the CD. Triple kill, lights out. It's an ace.
Okay, order.
Well, big day ahead of us, and it's not just going to be me here on the desk. Of course, I'm Mac if you don't know me, but I am joined by two handsome individuals. Different individual from yesterday. Threw my pen somewhere. Jordan, how are your pens going over there? How have you been?
I have a pen. I'm not going to pick it up. It's a little bit too far on my desk. It would look really awkward if I did that. But yeah, look, I'm looking forward to jumping into today. I think Mr. Skimmy, Rap God Skimmy, is a tough act to follow, but hopefully we'll be having a good day, and hopefully the games are going to deliver for us as well, because yesterday was a real banger. I was watching from the sidelines, and I can only hope to have such a good start to Split 2 for myself personally as well.
Well, you do get to cast the game that everyone's been waiting for. Of course, that's going to be Peace and Pensinet as the first match of the day. Oh, I can't believe we finally get there. But look, before we do discuss all of that, I just want to have a quick chat with you, Rusty.
Oh, yeah?
We said on Wednesdays we wear pink. Is that like a salmon shirt, but it's just the color's a little bit off? What's going on here?
It's definitely the lighting back. I'm telling you, the shirt's pink. You saw a photo in Discord earlier today as well. Can you not see how pink it is?
It actually looks very white on my screen. Does it? But I will give you benefit of the doubt, because I also thought this looked quite white at some point, when it's definitely a pinky salmony number. Yes, of course, before we get too far, yes, my brother, who has recently passed, one of his favorite movies was Mean Girls, so it is Wednesday, and we are all wearing pink to honor him here on the DoorDash LCO today. Now, let's move forward. Let's have a quick chat about what happened yesterday. It was a crazy day of games. Jordan, I did see you in chat there. Did you enjoy what you saw?
Yes, like I said, man, it was a great start to LCO. I very much enjoyed watching along. I thought that, I was a little bit sad that Mr. Rusty got that prediction for Gravitas and the rest of us got it wrong, because we're going to have to keep playing catch up. It feels like instead of it being Juves this time, it might be Rusty that's out in front, and the rest of us are sort of just trailing along behind. But aside from that, things pretty much went the way that I expected them to. Actually, I thought that Peace got pushed a little bit harder than I might have thought they would, although, obviously they're a solid squad. They're able to finish things off in the end, getting the better of the Chiefs. So overall, not too surprising of a day, but I think today's the big one, especially with that first match.
Yeah, I'm just so excited to see what happens from that one. And Gravitas, they may have a chance later on as well, because they're going up against Direwolves, and Direwolves didn't look themselves today, so I don't know. I haven't seen the predictions yet, and I guess we'll get to see them once we get there. But I wonder if anyone's gone for the stab in the dark at Gravitas.
It would be interesting if someone chose to veer away from the norm, perhaps, in their predictions today. I will say, Jordan, as well, regarding those predictions, I have a tendency, against my better judgment sometimes, to pick the thing that's more exciting. So I wouldn't count on me staying at the top for long. There's a real chance I just throw completely.
Yeah, well, hopefully you don't. because you're the big brain on the broadcast, although Jubes may have something to say about that. But let's have a quick look at where we're going to be going today, what the schedule is, and what matches are on the menu here. You got Peace and Pentanet kicking things off in 25 minutes there at 6 p.m. We have Direwolves and Gravitas up second at 7. Mammoth and Chiefs going head-to-head at 8 p.m. and then 9 p.m. to round things out. We do have Legacy Esports taking on Order. Now, this is a matchup I've got my eye on there as well, mostly because Order looked a little bit rocky yesterday, and Legacy, yes, they looked good initially coming out of the gates, but then just couldn't close out in that that thrilling first match we had in day one of the DoorDash LCO.
It was an interesting day for Order specifically as well, even though they got that win, Mac, because it did just feel like it was an Ezreal against the world. And I think both Order and Mammoth have learned now, one on the better side of the coin, of course, that champion is an actual abomination if it gets ahead, and maybe something that we see change today through the draft.
Well, Jordan, as you've been playing a little bit of ADC lately. What's your take on Ezreal here?
Actually, I don't play Ezreal very well. I'm a subscriber to Rusty's Church of Don't Play Ezreal if you don't play Ezreal. So I don't play Ezreal, funnily enough. The only ADCs I can actually play are Jhin and Senna because they auto-attack really, really slowly, and that gives me time to think. So, yeah, that's pretty much where I go with things. And unfortunate for me because Ezreal's really, really good, but I can't play him. So I just, leave him by the side, unfortunately for me.
Well, there you go. Now, Rusty, key picks for day 2. This is what we've seen. I guess the majority of the teams picking so far. You want to take us through why these 4 champs are key?
Yeah, so we've got Gwen, Renekton, and Senna that aren't going to be included in this list because they've basically just been banned. So we're looking at key picks, things to get through the actual ban phase. And Ezreal, obviously, as we just discussed, is a powerhouse right now. Divine Sunder has opened up a tanky build for a champion that has way too much agency to play however you would like and is quite difficult to deal with. Set in particular has been seen top lane 3 times yesterday already to pretty great success overall, and is a champion that I think we will see a little bit more of because it's a physical champion with a lot of magic damage starting to run around in the jungle, as you can see with Rumble being there. And Karma, the reason that I put Karma in is because we saw Karma played in 3 different roles out of the 4 games yesterday. Is a very high priority early in the draft and is being flexed very actively as a result of that priority. I can't say it's done exceptionally well yesterday, but that flexibility does open up a lot of other things in the draft, right? You may lose with the Karma, but you win somewhere else.
There you go. So it's a pretty thorough explanation. Quick question though, who wore what the best? Because you said we saw Set 3 times. I think BioPanther's performance was pretty solid on the champ. What about Ezreal? Who do we like the most on that? B?
Has to be Puma, right? Who else played the Ezreal? I can't remember off the top of my head. And Boma, true.
Boma, yeah.
No, we're going to go Puma because he hit the clutch, and Boma unfortunately missed the clutch.
The only other one was Thomas Shen. So that's your 3 choices, I suppose.
Yeah, we're sticking with Puma, without a doubt.
Okay,
He carried.
well, we'll give it to Puma this time. Let's see if he does go towards the Ezreal today, but of course we'll be waiting for the final match of the day to check that one. Something that we can check in with is from the fans, of course. We are just going to be letting you guys know that, again, this split, we'd love for you to make that content, put it up online. I think Rusty had a fan on Twitter yesterday creating a whole lot of content, actually. So I think they were doing a really good job. Maybe take a ticket out of their book.
Maybe it was his only fan, but anyway.
Some could say that, but let's move on before we go too dark down the rabbit hole there. Now, if you do have good content, please send it in at LCO. Our beautiful social media manager will throw that up and we'll get some good content on here and maybe just keep roasting Rusty because that was a great thing that happened yesterday and I'd love to see more of that. Anyway, that brings us one step closer towards the first match of the day. It's grand final rematch time. We have Peace and Pentanet going head-to-head here. Difference is, Peace have a new look roster.
Yeah, so this matchup, specifically looking at Peace, Mac is a pretty big deal for how they face off against Pentanet. The reason that I'm super excited for this match is because the one thing that they have changed, we saw yesterday, Babip, is a much more measured, calm, and I want to say cerebral type of player in the way that he approaches it. And if you think back to Peace last split, as I'm sure we all saw, Jordan, they did struggle a little bit to actually close games when they consistently got leads, and I think he's going to help remedy that.
Yeah, I suppose that's definitely something we're going to be looking forward to. I know that he's been sort of talking himself up. You know, you yourself, Rusty, when we were having a bit of a discussion prior to the show, was saying that you thought Babbitt was going to come in and make a difference, and I'm hoping to see that. I was a little bit perturbed, like I said, from what we saw from Peace yesterday. I didn't expect it to be that close against the Chiefs. Obviously, they got it done. But I'm kind of willing to give them the benefit of the doubt just because, obviously, first game with Babip in the roster, how long have they been able to scrim with him? How well is he integrated into the team at this point? I think, you know, we can give them 1 or 2 or 3 maybe days and matches to sort of play before we really throw the bricks at them in a sense. But the one problem with that theory is that they're playing against Pentanet in their second game in the LCO split too. So you really don't have that much time to actually play catch-up, unfortunately.
Yeah, it goes to show, you know, the experience that he brings in may take a little bit of time to incorporate into their play style. But I guess this is the test, right? This is going to be the test. Now let's quickly talk Pentanet before we do head slightly more towards the match. You guys know him. You guys love him. Jordan, I'm going to throw this one to you. Who do you like the most and why?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Decoy, because he's a support player. I'm a big support player fan. Got to say, though, I think across the board, this is, you know, such an exciting roster to watch. You know, obviously, we all cheered them on at MSI. I'm happy to see that they haven't gone with a roster change. You know, there's not really too many reasons to go for a roster change. But, you know, some stranger things have happened. I've been casting esports for a long, long time. And some interesting decisions in the past from some teams. But luckily for Pentanet, yeah, nothing really to speak to in that respect. They looked good yesterday, fairly clean, fairly comfortable. It seemed like pretty standard fare. You know, nothing really changes for Pentanet. And I suppose that's probably what they want, right? If nothing changes, they go through, they win LCO Split 2, they go to Worlds, and then everyone's happy.
Well, you say that, but they did mention they're going to be bringing what they learnt overseas back, and that's going to be trying to take more opportunities and learn from their mistakes and, you know, put themselves in positions where they can make more mistakes. They're not going to play as safe as what we saw last split. They're not going to be going for those scaling champs and play with the late game, make those comebacks, because a lot of the time they would, you know, lose the first blood, maybe be a little bit behind early on, but they'd always come back. And this split, I'm excited to see what they're going to do different.
Yeah, I mean, they were actually trying to do that a little bit last split, right? But it's funny because I was talking to Pabu about this last split, so I could say it now. They were winning so easily through all of their practice, all of their play, that they started trying to innovate themselves. Like, they just weren't being challenged enough.
Yeah.
So they decided, let's just be more aggressive and see how it goes, and they did like a small adaptation through that. But now they've actually gone over to MSI. They have well and truly been put in the bin by some of the best teams in the world, and they did learn a lot from it. And it's what they almost did in Split 1. They need to do that more properly right now. And I think that's very interesting that they happened upon the answer almost just by happenstance when they were winning too much.
Well, we do have another pink talent that we need to bring back to the desk or back to the screens here. And that's Nat. Nat, how you doing? You are much more pink than what we are. What have you gone with today here? You've got some little pins you were pretty proud of there as well.
Yeah, I was really proud. I got myself some League of Legends pins here. I got my little Poro and my TFT little penguin. I was saying to Rusty, I feel like an art student that doesn't actually know how to do art. That's the look I've gone for today.
You certainly fit that role. Now, who do you have down on the sidelines to have a chat to before the grand final rematch?
I have pulled in probably everyone's favorite matchup. I've got Pradith and Violet here with me for the interview. Thank you both so much for joining me. I want to start with asking you, Violet. You know, we saw PGG go over to MSI. Everyone was watching their games. But what was your, I guess, opinion of their performance over there? And do you think if Peace had have won in the grand finals, would you have done better than them?
I mean, I don't think we would have done better than them. There's no way. They won the finals like fair and square. They beat us 3-1, so saying that we would have done better is pretty delusional. But I think I was surprised by how well their bot lane played against the other major region teams. They were able to take a win off Cloud9, which is pretty cool to watch. So.
Does it make you a little bit nervous knowing that they played so well internationally to come up against them tonight, especially with a roster change for you guys?
It doesn't make me more nervous. It makes me more it's more exciting to play because I haven't played against PG at all actually ever since they came back. So it'll be really fun to see how we match up against them.
We have heard that a little bit from Pentanet, Pradith, that you guys haven't been able to do many scrims. So where is the confidence level for you guys coming up against that extra addition in Peace?
It's pretty scary to go up against Peace because it's like no bot lane comes close to them, and I think no team will probably come close to them for the whole split. So like not being able to practice against like them at all, we're kind of going in blind. I guess they are too, so it's pretty exciting. But yeah, I'm very confident every single time we go on stage that we'll just outperform everyone, even though we haven't had practice that much and people wanted longer breaks and whatever. I think yeah, we'll always just be fine.
Do you think that there was much that you learned from watching Peach's game yesterday, or the game that you played yesterday, that you're going to take into this matchup?
The game yesterday was kind of weird to watch. It's like, I think like Chiefs threw really hard. I think, I mean, it's like a best of ones, right? And it's like the first game of the best of ones, so I'm not gonna like take it too seriously. But it was like, it didn't look very well played. I'm like, was kind of disappointed honestly in both the teams. I thought they were a lot better than what they showed. So hopefully, Peace still a bit better against us.
Violet, what do you think of that one? You know, you would have had the same sort of experience of getting to watch their game. Has there been anything that you've taken away that you're hoping to punish in your game against them today?
Not really, to be honest. I think they just played really well as a team yesterday, and they just like terrible Darwolves. There's not much else to say really. They just kept them in every lane pretty much, and as a team. So yeah. Well,
I do want to ask one last question. I asked you guys at a last split, but what is going to be the timestamp of the win? How fast are you guys going to win? If you want to start, Violet.
It's probably going to be like 25 to 35 minutes, I'd say. Okay.
And Praedith, what about you? What do you think?
25 to 35 minutes is like the most like broad window. I think I'd be very surprised if it wasn't 25 to 35 minutes. I hope it's a banger, like a 15-minute banger. I'm in it for the long run. I'm like only starting my coffee right now.
You want to make this one a marathon?
I'm all good. Yeah, why not? I don't care. But I kind of want to finish the game early so I can go play other games. I'm kind of sick of this game.
Okay.
Well, look, I mean, if you want to get this game started, I'll let you both go. I'll wish you the best of luck, and thank you both for joining me. I'm looking to see if it's that 50-minute banger or only 25 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I straight off the bat say there was a lot more respect already shown this split from both those individuals, but at the same time, Praedith just wants to go and play other games. So, He doesn't have prac to get to. He's got his official. It's out of the way. After the stage game's done, then, you know, he's free to do what he wants, right? And I'm sure he's going to use exclamation DoorDash in chat and maybe go get himself some dinner at some point too. So make sure you guys do that as well. What else did you guys pull from that interview?
He said he just had a coffee. So what I took from that is he probably woke up at 5 p.m. today. And he's only just now actually waking up. So that's why he's maybe impatient to go play other games. He hasn't done anything else today.
True. Well, I think, you know, you can have a coffee at any time of the day you want, no matter when you wake up. Because, Rusty, I've also just had a coffee and I just finished it as well. There you go. Don't call people out when you're doing it as well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to have a quick look at the predictions and which way we're going to be sending it as the talent. And let's see what we've chosen. Rusty with the peace call. Pensnet for myself and Elfish Guy. Now, what have you gone for over there, Nat?
I put Pentanet as well. It was really hard. I think it's just, I don't know if it was a combination of Chiefs stepping up or Peace just not really fitting into the new roster comfortably, but it was just nowhere near as convincing as Pentanet. And I said it yesterday too, Pentanet has this team fight ability that you just don't see on any other team in this league yet, so.
Okay, well, Rusty, I know you're going to have plenty of time to talk about why you've picked Peace on the cast, but you know, at the face value, tell us exactly why you've gone for Peace instead of Pentanet here.
I mean, so first of all, I think everybody who's done their predictions today is probably going to be using recency bias as one of the reasons for it. And I know that if I was Peace, I'd be putting more time and effort into preparing for the game today because I'd want to beat them straight away. Pensinet definitely not going to be as practiced as Peace because they have been quarantining and using hotel internet for 2 weeks leading up to the split start. And I do think that one thing I saw yesterday from Peace was good team fighting. They struggled in the mid-game, but they actually had a good late-game team fight win, even at a point where they were being challenged. So if that's what we're going to see from them, and they're going to win their lanes, I don't see any way that Pensinet beats them.
Very true. And I think that's pretty much what Praedyth was saying as well. It didn't sound like he was, you know, like last split going, yeah, we're the best, we're going to win. It was like, well, you know, Peace has probably the best bot lane in the league, and that's dangerous. So, you know, Jordan, you're going to be watching this game as well. Why do you think Pentinet's going to win? Are you going to go with the recency bias as well, or do you have your other thoughts?
Well, I mean, obviously there's the fact that Peace have had that roster change as well, and I sort of questioned whether or not that's come through to full effect just yet, based on what we saw yesterday against the Chiefs. And I think you're probably going to need to be hitting 100 or maybe 110% against a team like Pentinet if you're Peace to be able to beat them. Look, recency bias aside, you look at the record, it's 8-3 right now between these two teams, favoring Pentinet. A couple of the games, obviously in the upper bracket final and the grand final, going the way of Peace, but in the BO1s, they both went the way of Pentinet. I just don't really see Peace at that level yet. And I think Pentinet, obviously coming back off of the experience at MSI as well, can only go from strength to strength. So I think it's difficult to make the argument, actually, that Peace can find a win today, and that's probably why the majority of us have gone for Pentinet. And we'll see if Rusty's going to go and throw his predictions away, because he did say
I was going to chuck him.
He did say.
That's it. He's either going to be way out ahead, nice and early after day 2, or he's thrown it in the bin. Now, let's have a quick look at what someone at home's been working on. We've got another little bit of content from the fans here, and it is going to be Ren Baby, or Baby? I don't know how you want me to say it, but you've got all the options there. Now, POV, you are Peace, not GT. Oh, wow. Okay, well, Pentinet fans getting the memes in there nice and early. Oh, you got to love it.
They have a very active fan base as well on Discord, I believe, since MSI, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot more memes coming out of the Pentinet side here, not just from their relentless social media, which is relentless.
Is it a love-hate relationship, or is it just a hate relationship at this point?
Between me and them?
Yeah.
Oh, it's tumultuous.
There you go. What about you, Nat? Any thoughts on that quality content, and what kind of content do you want to see from the fans during this split? Because you, of course, weren't here on the panel when we were talking about it before.
First of all, I think that meme was absolutely so good. If you're going to pick any game to meme as much as you can today, it's got to be this rematch or like this matchup, because you're either going to be so confident and be wrong that you can meme yourself, or you're going to be so confident and right, you get to meme on the other team still. So I absolutely love it. But as for meme content that I want to see, a mix of everything. I love us being made fun of a little bit, just a little bit. But I definitely like seeing the confidence coming from the fans on each team.
Of course, of course. Now, as we do get a little bit closer to the match, it's not quite ready just yet, but going into Champ Select, we do have 2 of the players in this game that had the largest champ pools out of essentially everyone in the competition. You got Appy there as well as Pabu, and they both just played so many different champs. What do you think we're going to see today? Do you think it's going to be something different from yesterday, or are we going to actually see a bit more of a meta approach and just going for what works?
From Appy or just in general?
From both of those two.
Pabu's obviously always cooking up weird things in his champion pool kitchen. In terms of Appy, I don't necessarily think he intentionally tries to play all the different champions. I believe he mentioned this earlier when they were playing with Kevies, that he enjoys playing like the just full-on support champions. So we might see him pull out something like a Karma in a game like this and just focus on like hard winning through bot lane specifically. But at the same time, his set looks good. We know that his Gnar is very good and it's meta right now as a champion. So I would not be surprised to just see really basic stuff from honestly all of Peace, where the wildcards may come from a Pensinet draft or champion.
Okay, hopefully we get to see that. Any thoughts on that one, Jordan, as well?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at what both teams played yesterday, I think we're probably going to get fairly standard fare, at least in terms of the way that both teams approach their normal games of League of Legends, right? We're going to see Pentinet looking for that front-to-back fight. They're going to kind of go for really just the 100% League of Legends, if that makes sense. They want to have that strong top laner. They want to have the carries coming through from mid and from bot side, and obviously Pabu there to kind of assist. On the side of Peace, they're going to be obviously putting all of their eggs into one basket and essentially force-feeding Violet as much as possible, try to get him onto a hyper carry, try to enable him as much as possible, and we'll sort of see how these two fairly similar almost styles kind of clash in a way, because obviously again you're going to have things like Biopanther coming down to bot, and as a result we're probably going to be seeing Appy come down to bot. We're going to be seeing that. I feel like a lot of stuff, let's just say stuff, going on in the bot lane this game. That for me is what we're expecting to see, but I think at least if you look at both of the teams and the way that they generally tend to come into a game of League of Legends, I don't expect that we're going to see much of a change-up or any real curveballs from either of them, because they'll both feel coming into this game that they could actually be confident enough to play their own style as opposed to having to throw something at the wall and see if it sticks.
What I'm really hoping is we get to see some Gwen today. It's had a pretty high pick rate overseas. We've seen it banned a whole lot so far here in the DoorDash LCO, but no picks just yet, and I want to see where it sits in the meta, especially in Oceania here. Now, Nat, before we do throw into Champ Select, I'll give you the floor. Any champs you want to see in particular here?
I want to say Morgana only because I've been absolutely smashing her in the ranked games lately. But I don't know if there's anyone specific champ-wise that I want to see. I think it's just the game in general is so hard because every lane either feels extremely close and even in the matchup, or there's enough of a difference in, let's say, bottom lane, right? Let's favor Peace for that side, but in mid lane, I would favor Pentanet. So I feel like what's going to be the biggest game changes here is how top plays and how jungle plays. I think mid and bot are much of a muchness between the two teams. So I guess I'm more focused on how the players are playing more so than who they pick.
Alrighty. Well, I've got some good news, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for day 2 to begin. So it is currently 5:57 p.m. Make sure you use exclamation DoorDash in chat. Make sure you get yourself some dinner because I'm not only hungry for some action, but I'm hungry for some damn food too. Now, boys, please take us into Champ Select.
All right, Mac, your wish is my command. As we head into Champion Select, Rusty, I'll tell you what I want to see.
What's that?
I want to see Set. I want to see Biopanther on Set because every single time we get to see him playing that champion, he goes absolutely bonkers, and it's very enjoyable to watch. I feel like that's the most exciting champion that we get from Biopanther, so I got my fingers crossed for some Biopanther Set today, but I'm ruined. I'm absolutely ruined.
I jinxed it already.
Unfortunate.
Disaster.
Can't win them all.
It's interesting because I also said we might get a Karma or a Set from Appy, and they've both been banned straight away, so I feel like they're listening to us at the moment, so maybe we just don't predict a champion that Peace
Well, the
will
next one
play
I would
next.
have said. The next one I would have said I wanted probably was the Akali for Chaz, which unfortunately is also gone. So it does look like we're going to get a big change up from yesterday. Lee Sin also out of the picture, which was a champion that was
still available.
Fairly contested yesterday.
Should be probably a red side third ban unless they've got something ready for it. Looking at the rest of the world, we are seeing Gwen played, not just permanently banned, and presumably will be picked here as well. Gangplank, I believe, was one of the more comfortable champion picks into it. And I haven't seen Biopanther play something like Gangplank in a little while, but I don't doubt that with the tenure of the player in top lane, he'd be able to.
Looks like they've actually gone and prioritized Xin. So again, another champion that seems to have popped its head up a little bit of late. We didn't get to see him at all last season, but I think it was Akano yesterday playing it. Did a pretty damn reasonable job, so not too shabby of a selection early on in the piece. And again, Pentanet angling for the early Lulu pick.
I mean, Lulu is a great champion. I am honestly more surprised the priority that people have been putting on Karma over the Lulu, but I guess with Karma banned, it does make sense that this would be the next option. That draft flexibility being a major proponent, right, as to why we're seeing Karma often first picked. Rumble has been seen pretty often as a jungler of choice. However, if you think back to yesterday's games, Xin Zhao is uniquely equipped to deal with Rumble ultimates because his own ult stops all damage from people outside the circle. Rumble's never near his ultimate. So Udyr is going to be the champion of choice into the matchup. It's hard to kill, but Xin Zhao definitely will still be able to hit you.
Yeah, very much a get-in-your-face kind of a champion. That'll be quite useful. I'm interested to see what's going to be paired in this bot lane with the Lulu selection. Obviously, Praetor's going to be looking for something maybe in the same vein as a Kog'Maw. That's what he played yesterday, but how does that match up into, for example, now the Kai'Sa that we've got through here from Peace? Not a bad choice to take that one away from Praetor, although I'm not sure that he was going to head towards that regardless. It is definitely a comfort champ for him, and it looks like we might end up actually getting both of the bot laners locked in here for Peace, which will give Pentanet, I was going to say, a good idea, and it will indeed give them a good idea of what they're going to be going up against.
Yeah,
so,
I was thinking Alistar, Leona, or Nautilus, so I am glad that that's the direction they went. You'd have to assume, Jordan, much like yesterday, that at Pentanet we're just going to straight away lock in the Kog'Maw as their third champion here. Going into the second ban phase, it just gives free bans to the side of Peace if you don't go for that one. So as it stands, like you said, we've got our bot laners. We've also matched the jungle role, as neither of those champions look to be flexible in the draft. And it's solo laners that have not been touched. So the interesting thing here is at this point, usually solo lane picks are going to favor the red side, right? If you can pick a fourth pick flex and then actually hover that between mid and top, suddenly you have a very winning situation in draft if you're Pentanet.gg. Peace need to have an answer potentially in both lanes to that single flexible champion.
I mean, is there really a champion that Pentanet can pick in that fourth position that both Biopanther or Chaz could take? I'm not sure exactly how well their lineups
but that's
together.
gone, like you mentioned before. Gwen and Viego still exist. I just don't know if they've played it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, obviously Lee Sin again, but also banned, so... Lucian's banned too. A lot of these flex sort of, mid or top selections are out of the picture, and actually Gwen's taken away here as well, so that's now no longer an option.
Victor being banned, so they may not flex, right, for what it's worth. They may just pick a champion that outright wins its mid lane or survives its lane regardless. That's something like Biopanther will do with his fourth pick Cho'Gath Scion style of champion, Wouldn't surprise me to see another tank go in front of a Lulu Kog'Maw. And I think your prototypical composition here for Pentanet.gg is a tank going into... Oh, never mind, it's going to be a Lulu mid from the looks of it. Why even say it? But yes, they are still going to pick a tank. So it does still fit that scaffolding of a team composition, just maybe not what we expected.
Absolutely bamboozled me, that's for sure. But you can kind of see the pieces of the puzzle coming together for Pentanet. You've got the Lulu there to enable the Kog'Maw, and obviously the Brawn there to protect it. So it's very much going to be a protect the ADC composition, which is almost what we expected to see through from Peace, and we're not quite getting that. A lot of dive available for them with the Nocturne, with the Xin. Nocturne presumably going to be going up into the top lane if we see this final selection come through.
They can't decide, can they? Nocturne Ori is a comp that can work, especially in skirmishes more than in team fighting, but obviously still has its place there. Overall, they've just got to very much press your R buttons and run forwards fast comp with a lot of reliance, I think more than anything else, on Halo being strong and at the very least, being able to survive the start of a fight.
All right. Will be Tristana into the mid lane, presumably now. Biopanther taking the Lulu up to top. Interesting composition for Pentanet. I suppose they've got a couple of threats there. That's the one benefit of having both the Kog'Maw and the Tristana on the same team. If Kog gets picked off, you sort of just default back to, okay, well, now we're just going to enable Tristana. Tristana can be a little bit more self-sufficient in a sense as well. So it doesn't necessarily need all of the assistance maybe that Kog'Maw does. Overall, interesting composition, not exactly what I would have expected from Pentanet at all, and I sort of said as much in the pre-show there. So I'm excited to see how this works for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not what we thought we would see the second a Lulu and a Kog'Maw were picked in their first three. It's funny because we mentioned Karma maybe being higher priority because of its flexibility, but Lulu obviously can go into solo lanes, and obviously is going to be right now. Biopanther, we highlighted maybe he wants to be a tank, maybe he wants to play front to back, but he's going to be Lulu for the Trist, for the Kog'Maw late game. And this is more of the style of drafting that we've actually seen from a lot of the teams in the LCO on day one, right? They play that Enchanter in top lane, and they actually just sit with their hyper carry after they complete one item, maybe two items, and just take the farm when they can. Have to prioritize being there for the rest of the team. And usually that mid lane champion or the solo lane that isn't the Karma or the Lulu wants to be able to split push and side lane, But that's not really something we're seeing here from Chaz either, as he's gone towards that Tristana. Does do well in lane. They do still have 2 tanks in a front line. Braum passive works exceptionally well with the auto attacks that come out of everyone on the side of Pentanet.gg. But it is not a Lulu Kog'Maw bot lane. It is not a lane that just hard wins level 1, even though it's a scaling lane. It is a very different dynamic overall.
It's a very interesting bot lane as well. Leona into Braum. Obviously, you're diving in on top of Braum, which in a lot of instances can then result in your death. There's every chance that the Kog'Maw just presses W, turns around, and blows you up. And that's one of the scary things about playing against Kog'Maw. He seems so sort of unassuming in a sense, and you think you're going to get rid of him. But if you don't, and you give him any kind of room, any kind of space, and any kind of time in a fight, he's just going to eventually out DPM you. And yeah, I've been playing a bit lately, and every time I see a Kog'Maw, I'm thinking maybe this one's a dodge.
Sweating a little.
He's a very, very scary champion these days. So interested to see how that bot lane in particular pans out, because we've looked at this bot lane matchup so often. It was kind of the highlight of that grand final, the matchup that we were all talking about. So once again, we've got a very tantalizing prospect ahead as we dive into game 1 here for day 2 of Split 2 in the LCO.
The first things that we're going to have to look at, obviously, is going to be where these players and teams start along the map. And because there is nothing crazy happening at level 1, the game plan just more so going to be placing those wards, perhaps swapping to sweepers with an early recall around now, and starting to get some influence for the first ganks, as it seems that's what both supports are considering.
Yeah, fairly standard across the board. Recall from Decoy. He's actually gone for the red trinket early on in the piece after putting down that initial ward in the river. So that is interesting. Potentially lead to some more roams. Aside from that, this is, well, the most chill start to a game of LCO I feel like we've had in a while.
Absolutely is, yeah. Just emote battles and annoying demon-sounding chants in mid lane. Overall, it's going to be quite relaxed. Looking towards the lanes themselves, we've got both junglers starting solo, so a lot of the priority here does seem to be about those laners having a strong lane. One thing that is quite understated and is very important in competitive games is the ability for a jungler to clear solo, probably even smiting the first camp if necessary. Often, if you're red side, you'll do red into Krugs. If you're fast enough, you'll smite the big Krug to keep the camps going. But basically what this means, right, is your lane opponent doesn't get an edge on you in minions, so they're not going to get level 2 first. They're not going to be able to walk past the minion wave to harass you if you come to lane late, and it means that you're just going to be able to try and maintain a more even lane state, or that your lane will play the way that it's supposed to, right, more than anything else. You don't get to change that fact.
All right, Rusty, time for you to take a backseat. We're going to jump into an interview with Midlord and see what he's got to say about this game and all things peace. Midlord, great to talk to you again. I've been enjoying your tweets. How are you going?
Fine, thank you.
Awesome. All right, good to hear. I'm very good as well. Thank you very much. Let's have a chat about you and peace. Obviously, everyone's quite excited to hear, the roster change coming through for you. But first, I want to ask about your off season and how things went for you there. Did you sort of have a break as a team? Has there been any downtime, or have you been practicing hard?
Both of them, we practice hard and take good receipts.
Okay, good to hear. And obviously the big news, bringing in Babip into the roster. How has his integration been? I see he's actually in the team house as well. So how has he been settling into the team?
It's pretty well. And his communication is better than others.
Is that something that you looked for in in another player? Obviously, it was something that we talked about earlier on the show, that maybe Peace did struggle to finish games off last season, and hopefully that will help you to finish games off a little bit easier this time around.
Yeah, thank you. So that's what we're looking for. One can make the call.
Indeed.
And finish the game.
Yeah, cool. Well, it's obviously good to bring in someone with a lot of experience like Babik. Now, I wanted to sort of talk to you about your drafting as well. Obviously, yesterday it seemed, pretty standard from you guys. Again, it looks like you've gone towards some kind of comfort champions, comfort picks. What's the mentality like coming into the early games this season, noting the roster change, are you just trying to ease your way in and trying to play things as standard as possible to give yourselves a nice base platform to build off?
It's hard to say, but because players have their own idea about the landing phase or something. So our planning is about the mid game to one-shot the carries, then we can win the team fight easily.
Okay. Were you at all surprised by the draft that Pentanet has brought in here as well? Because they've obviously gone for the Lulu top lane, they've got the Braum down in bot. That was surprising for us. We thought it was going to be Kog'Maw Lulu again in the bot lane.
Yeah, that's true. But it's not that surprise because Happy played Lulu top last season, do you remember that? So we consider about these things.
Okay. All right, well, good to hear from you, Midlord. Very much appreciate your time. I think we'll jump back to the game, so best of luck and hope to talk to you again soon.
Sure, thank you. See you soon. Bye.
See you, mate. All right, Rusty. Look, we did tend to miss a little bit during the interviews yesterday, and that seems to
we
have
missed a lot, didn't we?
been the same again.
I apologize to the viewers that wanted to hear Elfish guys screaming at the first 4 kills of the game, because that's not going to happen in this one. A lot of it did come down to, interestingly enough, the point that I was making just before the interview as well, on lanes playing out as they should, the priority and exactly what that means. Both fights happen around Scuttle Crabs. Bot lane having priority from the side of Peace was the difference maker, even though Halo didn't have it in mid. There's still a numbers advantage, and they're able to net themselves a 2-for-0 trade. And then they teleport back into the skirmish that happens in top. So after the kills go across, Babip gets the bottom scuttle, just walks straight through mid. So open information for the side of Pentanet.gg, and they say, okay, we have priority in top lane. I'm going to come help get this. But it takes Pabu so long from respawn to actually get to the Scuttle Crab that it was enough time for Alidoric to get up there, and once again, numbers advantage, too much pressure, too much of a threat. And they do end up going for another 1-for-1 trade with a monster in the jungle right now in Babip.
Yeah, going to be a very, very scary Xin, especially once that Orianna hits level 6. You know, you put the ball on top, and all of a sudden, you've basically got a nuclear bomb. And as a result of that as well, Peace are going to just decide to up the tempo a little bit. A very, very early Dragon coming through from them here, and there isn't really a whole lot of recourse for Pentanet. They don't really have the opportunity here to really take a contest at all if they even knew. Maybe potential pick available if Peace were a little lackadaisical, but in the end, Pabu decides not to go for it. So a fairly uncontested Dragon for Peace, and they'll be happy with how this game is progressing so far. But Rusty, we do have to throw our minds back to last season and remember the amount of times that Peace got ahead and the amount of times that they weren't able to close those games out, especially against Pentanet.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking that, but we have to actually look again at what's different. Because it's not just Violet, you know, staying in lane, having a 30 CS difference or something like that in his 2v2. Instead, it is Alidoric and Violet both leaving their lane to assist the Xin Zhao when it comes to skirmishes in the jungle. The money, the resources, it's all going to the jungler of Peace, not going to the AD carry. And this is vastly different to what we were used to seeing, and could actually be something that, you know, changes the flow of this game, because they're still winning bottom, right? They're still controlling the lane. They've had permanent priority, and it's still winning the rest of the map in terms of getting leads.
Babip's going to decide to give up on the Scuttle fight. Let's do some ward clearance in the bot lane. Not too eager to take the challenge against Pabu, who admittedly did have a level advantage coming off of the Scuttle.
Also, I won't lie, Jordan, if I see Chaz miss another cannon, I might...
I wasn't going to bring it up, you know.
Genuinely annoyed at him at the moment.
I did see that, and I was thinking, worth mentioning, maybe, but it also kind of feels like, you know, obviously I cast a lot of FPS titles. It kind of feels like saying, oh, why didn't he just hit his shot?
Yeah.
So poor Chaz, I feel really, really sorry for him that you've done him like that.
I only bring it up because that was the second cannon. That wasn't the first one. It's a mistake. That's a fair mistake. But earlier in the game, I think it was like level 2 or 3. Straight up missed a cannon and the next minute afterwards. So it was in my mind. It was fresh.
It's hard, man. He's not on a champion that's designed to last hit every single creep.
True.
So anyway.
It's just an AD carry.
Look, besides that point, he's still, you know, chugging along quite nicely. Does actually have the cull in the back pocket as well. So definitely looking for sort of that mid-game, late-game power spike as opposed to a huge upfront early game sort of fighting. on that Tristana.
Yeah, Tristana, one of those champions that is often regarded as a strong late game champion, but does in a sense drop off. While the range goes up, the way the champion plays is still quite risky. The interesting thing with PGG's comp is that they've got the Lulu to try and navigate around those difficulties. But if Lulu is assisting a Tristana, then who's helping the Kog'Maw? So I'm wondering, and it hasn't started that way just yet, but I'm wondering if we'll see a tankier build from either of them, as we've got a dive top.
Yeah, Biopanther does have Wild Growth available here, but might not get the chance to use it. Eventually sneaks it through, but Appy dodged the Glitter Lance, walks away on a sliver of HP, and so too does Babip. I think a few things actually went right there for Peace. And I'd say Biopanther a little bit unfortunate not to come away with at least one.
I mean, yeah, overall, that was a fantastic dive. We have to give them credit where it's due. They're successful. It's now a 3-0 Xin Zhao. And we've got, once again, Aladoric roaming around the entire map, literally helping to win the game. It is not a 1v1 in the jungle right now. It is a 2v1. And that difference is proving to be far too significant for Pensanet.gg to be able to handle it. Bot lane, yeah. This might be the first time we can say that in a game between Pensanet and Peace, Violet has a CS difference that's negative. That may be the first time we've seen that in the 8 games that they've played. But the game itself is 2,000 gold ahead for Peace.
Yeah, I mean, I can't confirm 100%. Obviously, haven't done the math after the final. Actually, I'll hold my thought for a moment because Halo, he'll be okay. But going into that, never mind, I'm going to go back into, never mind, nothing. Nothing's happening, Rusty. Why do they keep doing this to me? Chaz might just die!
Something's happening.
I'm so confused. He just stood there and took it. Never mind, never mind. Anyways, what were you saying, Rusty?
I have no idea anymore. I've really lost my train of thought.
Well,
yeah.
We were talking about Violet and how he was ahead in CS at 15 minutes every single game of LCO Split 1, and I did the math going into the final, and that's correct. But I can't say that's for sure the case after the grand final that we saw. But it's an interesting statistic and interesting to note. Granted, though, he has actually overtaken Praetor for a moment again. So
it was a nice shockwave there from Halo, for what it's worth, and then Chaz. I think Chaz just assumed that Halo wouldn't continue to pursue it. Like, the fight had happened and it was done, and then Halo just kept going. I'm genuinely a little bit confused by Chaz's decision there. He is struggling now in that mid lane 1v1. If that's the way that it's going, that alongside the fact that we've got the Iron Spike whip for Appy and a lot of priority now potentially available for the Nocturne, this game does start to swing a little bit more towards the side of Peace, which is saying something, right, considering how it has been going so far. Bottom lane is that only place where they're not outright winning. Top's a 10 CS difference, but he's going to have permanent priority, and every time the ultimate's available, we'll be able to move around the map, and they've actually put him mid for the moment. So Appy has a lot more potential to move. So looking at things that are next, I would say the Dragon is the obvious port of call.
it's not a bad choice from Peace at all to be having Nocturne in the mid lane. Obviously, not only does he have that paranoia available, so he can get around the map pretty easily, Halo also has teleport available, whereas Appy does not. So if he's up on the island, up in top, he's not going to be able to get down to Dragon, but being in mid enables him to do so. It looks like teleport isn't even necessarily going to be part of the discussion, though, because Halo has shoved the wave and walked it down. Biopanther doesn't really have the ability to shove that wave out too quickly on the Lulu just yet. And while he does have teleport available, again, it looks like it's going to be an uncontested Dragon here for Peace. So far, things are working perfectly for that Peace roster. They really are not struggling at all. They took the first two Dragons. They took the first Rift Herald as well. And they're fully controlling this game.
Yeah, there's basically nothing going the way of Pensanet.gg. Their scaling is obviously quite good. They do have a lot of tools to deal with the dive of Peace as well come team fight. So just looking at the options that are available to them, I don't think they're upset just sitting back and you know, buying time for themselves, farming as casually as they can, you know, stacking those culls and looking for the team fights. But like, you have to take stock of the fact that it's already two Drakes at 13 minutes. A very early first Dragon followed with a second one straight away. So we've got the 23-minute soul point potentially there, and that's really hard to deal with even if you're trying to scale.
Yeah, well, Praetor at least starting to put some decent damage down with that auto attack. Violet's HP getting chunked a little bit by it, but It's going to be a while yet before we see Praedyth really coming online. Has finished the Kraken Slayer off. I thought he actually went for Gale Force. I thought I saw that pop up.
He did.
So he's just decided to change things up and go back onto the Kraken Slayer, which is an interesting choice. Especially when there's a Nocturne and a Xin involved. And a Leona.
Yeah, we've seen this a lot from Praedyth. He's never really sure what he wants to buy until he's in the shop. That might be something that he could consider working on for future. But yeah, he's gone for the Kraken Slayer. So there's a couple of trains of thought that I have here. One is you do Kraken Slayer into tanky items like your Wits End Cogmore build. That could be the way he goes and just has one high damage item, which is what's most likely the case.
Look at this roam into mid from Peace. It might actually catch them off guard a little bit. Babip doesn't quite get stunned up by the Brawn passive, and the turn is in. Oh, dearie me. That's gone horribly wrong for Pentanet. Appy flying on through with the Paranoia as well. I mean, it seemed like overkill at that point.
They actually just have them completely downloaded. That Zenith Blade was really close, and a dive could have been on there as well onto Chaz, and that would have just been further salt in the wound, the way this is going so far. But genuinely, this game feels like Peace have such a good read on the Pentanet playstyle. There's nothing that their opponents are able to get done here. 7-1 is the kill score. You know, they try and catch Babip out as he walks through the turret, but the Shockwave hits too. Violet has the ultimate, Nocturne has the ultimate. And consider how fast these guys are able to actually get in as reinforcements. If Babip is the one that they're going on to first, really hard to deal with.
Yeah, it kind of feels like at the moment Pentanet are trying to play the delay game. They're trying to survive more than anything else. Obviously not the ones that are being able to play proactively, and they're really only being able to deal with what is thrown at them, and in some cases not even deal with what's being thrown at them. And it's very hard to sort of find a way for Pentanet to come back into this if Peace continues to play the way that they are. They've controlled literally every single objective that's gone down so far. 2 towers. Now this will be 2 Rift Heralds, 2 Dragons already. In a minute and 50 seconds, it'll be 3 Dragons. And what has Pentanet got to show for it? Really, not a whole lot. There's a bit of a gap in terms of the CS in jungle, but Habu's down 0 and 3, so you can't really write home about that. And across the rest of the board, it's either even or behind, really, for Pentanet. So, I mean, how long does it take for them to even come online, if they can come online?
I mean, Cogmore is just going to be strong with the Lulu nearby, so considering those 2 champions together, they're online all the time. The Tristana now plants into a side lane, no teleport, however, and we have to look at, can they win 1v1s? And then can they win team fights or skirmishes, right? It's the natural thought process that I'm looking at here. And 1v1s, I think it is possible for a Tristana to beat the Orianna, both running teleports, so no barriers or ways to actually navigate the burst that a Trist has. But Halo could also one-hit Chaz. So it's such a volatile thing to consider. What do these skirmishes look like? I would say that a Lulu and a Nocturne, I just don't even consider them as fighting. I would say Nocturne has priority at all times. That's just a win for Peace. Overall, I think it needs to be maybe 2 or 3 items, and then it needs to be team fights.
In which case, Pentanet really needs to stall this game out. You know, they're only at 17 minutes, they're down 7-1, there's a 3k gold deficit, and turrets are falling faster and faster, it seems like. Here is Peace again, pushing for another one, and it's going to be the Herald going down to confirm it for Appy. And not only that, put a bit of pressure on that bot lane when the Dragon spawns. Violet looks to have been caught out here. Exhaust goes down. They're all in on this Violet kill, but they haven't got him yet. Eventually, the explosion from Tristana gets it done. And that is a player advantage for Pentanet. And it might well get turned into a Dragon, but at what cost, Rusty?
Yeah, I mean, the Herald's going to get another charge off. It seems like the safe option is going to be the case here for Peace. They don't want to continue to push for it. They might have lost their lives. There might have been shutdowns. And that's something that you don't really feel the need to give over. And yes, Violet does go down. It was a cute little attempt there, to be honest. Nocturne Paranoia turning the lights out. And Kai'Sa ulting to the other side of the enemy team. He was surprisingly close to living. Like, if he had Flash still, that could have been a Kai'Sa that gets out miraculously with his life intact. But they'll get the pick. You know, they get an extra kill in the pockets of Chaz. There's extra money, and it does stop the very early Infernal Soul as a possibility. So that's not bad for PGG in the end.
I suppose they'll take it. It's kind of the first win, if that makes sense, that they've found so far this game. Not that it is just a straight up win, it's more of a trade in the end, obviously having those towers taking so much damage and whatnot. But it's at least something where they decide what was going to happen. So, we do go back to fairly standard fare. Babip getting aggressively actually flashes over the wall. There's going to be a miss on the Leona ulti, but it's enough. It was a zoning ult and a Zenith Blade to follow up. Makes for an easy kill in the end. Fire Panther can't get out this time. And Pentanet, again, can't even really look for a trade here. In fact, Aladoric's going to continue to go forward. Another Zenith Blade, and now a Shockwave. But Appy might have gone a little bit too deep, and that is an all-important kill going over to the Cogmore. That piece might be a little bit disappointed with.
They 100% will be disappointed with that. They've gone way too deep. They've also given freedom and time for Chaz to continue to sit in those side lanes. You know, the kill top lane was good, and then you probably just take that win, you know, build up some vision control and threaten towards the mid inner turret for sure. Just chucking a Nocturne in there. Like, again, you know it's into a Braum. And like we discussed earlier, Braum is super good into a Nocturne, into a Xin Zhao, and you have to be very particular with when you're picking those moments to ult in. That was not the moment, and they 100% were made to pay for that one. Braum's also not the target, is it?
I suppose there is a sense of overconfidence, maybe, when you're at this point in the game. You know, you're up 8 and, well, now 8 and 3. You've got a huge gold advantage. Everything's been going your way, and you're essentially a Nocturne and maybe a Leona as well, and maybe even a Xin with an itchy trigger finger, if that makes sense. You're really just sort of, you want to get in the game, you want to do something, you want to force the issue a little bit, and that doesn't necessarily need to happen at the moment. Pentanet obviously are controlling things nicely, working their way through this. I would hate to see them throw this away. You know, maybe I would love to see it, given my prediction was for Pentanet, but just for the sake of the storylines, I feel like this would be such a great start to the season for Peace.
Yeah, and it kind of summarizes exactly what we thought could happen, potentially, right? Like, you give Peace a new player who has a lot of experience and understands how to move around the map, give them someone calm for mid to late game that they'll listen to. And, you know, right now, you give him a 4-0 scoreline with a lot of agency to make those plays himself, and this is poised to be the perfect Peace game against them and a real statement game being made. In saying that, there is still a little bit of potential hubris there, or just getting a little bit overzealous with what they're able to achieve. They need to reel themselves in a little bit and make sure that they continue to play as close to perfect as possible. Or it could be dire straits for the rest of this game, scaling against the Lulu Cole.
This could be dangerous for Pentanet. You can start to see the collapse coming through. They're committed to taking the tower down. They will just about get it, but they're, in a sense, out of position. Peace wants to force things. Appy dives in with Paranoia. Aladoric chucking an ulti down as well, but neither really feeling too effective, and Pabu will just walk out. So in the end, Pentanet kind of feels like they get away scot-free.
Yeah, they do get away with that one pretty easily. Right now, when it comes to team fighting, yes, the Xin Zhao is strong, but it's only really when he's hitting a carry. The Shockwave is everything. So all eyes go to Halo when it comes to Peace's team fighting and what they're able to achieve. If that hits multiple members, could just be lights out for Pentanet, but the disengage, you know, the Lulu with the Shirelias, even though the lights get turned out, they run together and they run way too fast to actually catch. You know, you've got the ultimate from Leona being used, not quite hitting the mark. Appy ults in pretty much just to hit Stride Breaker to then try and flash away for the Stride Breaker slow. That's how difficult it was to catch them, but even that, you know, doesn't help enough.
He's still maintaining control of pretty much everything, and they decide to go for a Baron.
This will go down pretty quick, actually, with a Kai'Sa hitting this.
It's already below half HP, so Pentanet are going to have to get a wriggle on. Aladoric trying to do his best to zone Pabu away, but now he's been caught out, and Pentanet, it feels like this might be their chance. No. Pabu gets the steal. Peace walk away, but Pentanet now have a Baron. And is that the flip that they've been looking for?
Not only do they get the Baron, they take down Aladoric with it, and they're poised to push mid lane with no Shockwave, no Xin Zhao ultimate. That is an absolute tragedy for the side of Peace here, and could be something that decides the game in and of itself. The Baron start was great. It's the rest of it, the tragedy that comes down to the pressure, you know, mistakes being forced, and Pabu just blatantly hitting the smite in that Baron pit could just win them the game.
Yeah, well, all eyes on Peace now, because it's It's an all too familiar face. It's a sense of deja vu in a way. Let's have a look at this replay here and see how this ends up panning on out. I don't actually think Babip smited.
No, I don't believe he did, but it was also down to like 600 HP. Yeah, Smite's still ready there for the Shinzao. I mean, you need to press those, right? I think it had 1500 HP and then all the burst came out at once. It's one of the hardest things to deal with, especially when you've got an Orianna who I think was also hitting the Baron at the time. It could just be a comms issue there for Peace, but at the end of the day, it's Pabu who comes in. Phoenix is the Baron down and is able to smite it.
Oh. 0 and 3, doesn't matter. If you get that important smite, that needs to be maybe the only piece of impact that you need to have. And it's a huge amount of impact from Pabu in that one moment. If the rest of the game has been a little rough for him, he certainly made up for it. And all of a sudden, Pentanet are the ones in the lead in terms of the gold. They've also now got themselves 2 Infernals, and those are going to stack up.
They're deadly
especially
right
if they
now.
get to that soul.
Yeah, I mean, right now, though, it's absolutely potentially teamfight winning territory, right? They've got 2 items on Praetor, 2 items on Biopanther. They can have a frontline Cogmore. The Gale Force is a pretty big deal for being able to keep the Tristana alive, and I think Peace have recognized this, and they're just trying to staunch Pensnet away from the inhibitor if they can.
I'm not sure that Halo is going to want to stick around too much longer. In the end, he does get the helping hand from Babip, who gets him out of there. But they take the inhibitor turret, bit of damage onto the inhibitor as well. It's a very, very back and forth game right now. It feels like kind of a tug of war where Peace were the ones pulling hard at the start. They felt like they might have run out of gas, but there are still a couple of tricks left up the sleeves. Maybe some reinforcements left.
Yeah, also like a death cap for Halo, again, in terms of what he's able to provide in a team fight. That shockwave, the threat of the shockwave in and of itself, the zoning that can come from that, is going to be significant. I would one-hit Biopanther, first of all, so very respectful is the game plan here if you're the Lulu. There's a lot of threat to take him down. If Lulu's gone, I mean, it's just to cleanse Cogmore, right? Like, there's not a lot that actually keeps him alive there, and the game does start to swing pretty wildly towards the side of Peace. And, you know, we said this before, and I will reiterate this. The game, to me, is Halo versus Praedyth. Shockwave hitting multiple people could be game over, but Praedyth left untouched, and his teammates still there to support him, will be able to win a team fight.
I feel like we're in the eye of the storm right now. No objectives to contest. Baron obviously having timed out that buff for Pentanet as well. So it's sort of just the point in the game at which both teams are looking to control the wave states. Run around a little bit. If they get lucky, if they find a pick, they'll take it. But they're not too eager to force anything too crazy. Bit of vision control being established for Pentanet around the Baron pit. But it's still early days. Still a couple of minutes before that comes back online. See the bot lane being pushed out by Appy as well. And now Pentanet opting to group up, which is what they want to be doing with this kind of a team composition. You need to be having the Lulu with the team. You can't really be looking for the split push by a Panther. Pabu has kind of walked into an entire Peace team. What on earth was that?
Oh.
I have no idea, but now it's Appy's turn. Diving straight in. Decoy decides to drop down a little bit of peel here as well, and now it's time for Praedyth to come online, chunking out all of those autos. Chaz deep in the back lines. It's a messy, messy fight right now, and neither team really seems to have come out ahead. I suppose ultimately Peace do get the 1 for 0, but not too sure what that was.
I mean, it was 3 flashes and ultimates used on Peace's side. The only person with 1 remaining is Violet on their side. Looking at Pentanet.gg, yes, there was a flash used by Chaz, but that was after he jumped in and just copped it and did have to try and disengage. But overall, the summoner spell advantage belongs to Pentanet. It's just that an extra kill goes the way of Peace. You know, you've got a dragon in 40 seconds, so that could be, you know, the numbers disadvantage being enough space created that Peace can walk in, can get some vision down, can perhaps poise themselves to contest the 3rd dragon of the game for both of these teams. I think we will see a potential fight here.
Well, Decoy certainly not scared. Again, clearing out a little bit of vision. So Dragon in 13 seconds. It doesn't really look like Peace are in a position to contest this at all. They have no vision in their jungle. at all.
They've just teleported mid, so they need to be super diligent with how they get towards the Dragon Pit. Well, they could be face-checking instant death from a Braum passive on a Kog'Maw auto attack.
It's too late. Surely it's too late. The Dragon's already down. You can't go at this point. There's no need to go. There's nothing to fight for.
They're going.
Solar Flare does connect to an extent, and Appy tries to follow up, but there's just too much peel, and Pentanet again walk out, and that is now triple Infernal and Soul Point. Pentanet back to their tried and true, that slow grind that gets them the win, and it seems like it's headed in that direction once more.
Again, the Summoner spell disadvantage may be a factor. They are still looking, they're hunting, right? Leona ultimates left, right, and center to try and take the chance. Halo, if I was Peace, I would be waiting for that death cap. He needs 1100 gold to complete the item recipe. At that stage, his power boon will be unbelievable, and he is about this Gromp away from it, so you could see all of them helping to give him the Gromp and the blue buff. This is maybe the moment. It sucks to give away a third Infernal, and yes, they're a little bit late to that. Best case scenario, they find a good engage, they still win it, but for Peace, this is the moment, right? Death cap control wards. PGG, however, steady ship, scaling as they go, just good, solid League of Legends playing around their objectives now. There's only a couple of mistakes here and there from, I guess, the 0-4 Udyr that still is 1-0 when it comes to smites.
Yeah. Just seems as though Pentanet don't have the same gusto right now as Peace in terms of starting that Baron. They're not quite as eager to give that opportunity back over to their opponents. So they'll look to establish a little bit more control, let some resets happen here. And on the same token, that's going to give Peace some time. What is Violet going to get on this recall? Finished an item.
For what it's worth, this hasn't been the highest tier League of Legends that we've seen from both of these teams. This is definitely still a little bit unrefined, and keep in mind all of the factors that we mentioned earlier. It's Pentanet haven't played much lately. Peace have a new jungler who is kind of dictating the flow, but we'll hold that thought for now. Baron has been started. It is a dangerous Baron to start at that.
Yeah. Luckily, Pabu's pretty quick. Solar Flare, again, just missing, and Violet, has he overextended? Never mind. He'll be okay. Yeah, there was an interesting moment there for Pentanet. I think that they sort of recognized that Violet wanted to recall. I'm assuming he has an item completed here, and he got cancelled. Yeah, it was the Infinity Edge. Yeah, they cancelled him and tried to sort of sneak a Baron. Didn't quite work out for them.
Yeah, so those third items are starting to come across. It's not just the Infinity Edge, it's the Guardian Angel for Appy as well. And one consideration for team fights is your front line's probably going to die. So having that Guardian Angel is a big deal.
Well, Pentanet in the base right now, and Peace decide now is the time to absolutely burn that Baron. Let's see if it works out for them a second time around. Praedyth gets the info, but Pabu, can he do it again? No, not quite. Flashes the wall, but this time it goes the way of Babip, and Pabu dies. And that means it's a 4-on-5 Solar Flare. This time lands on top of Decoy, and while he's a Braum, he can still get stunned up. In comes Appy with a Paranoia, but there's just not quite enough. The distance can't be closed by Peace, and they'll have to walk away happy with the Baron and the one pick that they've got. But hey, can't be disappointed with that.
That was still a good call to go for the Baron, right? They knew that the reset was happening. They'll have the buff in hand on all 5 members, and once again, Pabu, 0-5, having a little bit of a shocker, but he has no choice. That's the thing. He has to get into that pit, try and take the smite, take the 50-50. He's decided that's the way. And so this inhibitor now going to be threatened. Halo still has Flash and Shockwave. 100% can win the game by himself just by pressing R, and you can see how much respect he is being paid, as it is owed, by the carries.
Oh, that could be huge. Aladora connects the Zenith Blade, and now the dive in from the rest of the team. Lots of damage through there from Chaz. And that's going to be enough to force Peace away. Artillery barrage is coming through from Praedyth right now, and Pabu's still sticking around, so wants to be a bit of a nuisance for Peace on this recall.
in 40 seconds. If you stop these resets, you basically get a free soul. The decision needs to be made fast by Peace, whether they choose to reset at all or they just try and staunch their way through here with vision control. But 28 seconds, 2 people got their resets off. They're going to try and hold that mid wave, at least keep some priority for themselves through one avenue. This is dangerous. This is really hard to break into right now, and You know, Babib has to do it as the front line if possible.
Luckily, Aladoric at least got the reset, so they have wards. There's a bit of damage exchanged. Here goes Appy once again. Stride Breaker through the entire team, but there's just really no damage. That Nocturne doesn't feel like a threat right now, and Pentanet are so happy to just play this backwards and forwards game.
It's all about the Shockwave. Jordan, if it hits, they win.
Oh, that's a big one again from Aladoric. Solar Flare. Who's he on top of? Biopanther, but he gets blown up. Wild Growth on top of Praedith, and you can bet your bottom dollar that he's going to turn into a machine gun. The rest of Peace scurrying away, but they cannot escape, and that is going to be Infernal Soul for Pentanet. So, while Peace maintains some semblance of composure with that Baron, Infernal Soul for Pentanet is not good news, and I'm not sure that Violet can get away from this. Pabu on the flanking angle, charging in on that Udyr. You can't escape an Udyr. He's driving a Ferrari right now. Never mind, Praedith. Praedith might be the one in the Ferrari. Who even knows at this point? It does not matter. Violet, can he get out? Just... Oh, what am I watching right now, Rusty?
You're watching a sepia-toned screen as Violet does get himself out with his life intact. I mean, well played. Credit where it's due for Violet. Does survive, but the cost... I mean, look at the rest of his team. That's 3 people down. Appy, of course, going earlier. And it's an Infernal Soul. The Shockwave was blocked by Decoy. So, at the end of the day... Like, massive victory here for Pentanet.gg. They've got their soul. They're in the driver's seat now in this game. And, you know, Kog'Maw online. Kog'Maw Lulu is a composition online. And nobody, and we've been seeing that, nobody has the tools to touch them. The Nocturne going in has been doing absolutely nothing for the team at all.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine a champion that I'd rather play against less with an Infernal Soul than a Kog'Maw. Especially a Kog'Maw with a Lulu at his back. You know, this is going to be a real rough one for Peace. I don't really know what it is. I mean, you've spoken a lot about the Shockwave being important. I don't know that we've seen a huge one coming through from Halo, and we could still yet see a massive game-turning Shockwave come through here. But are the enabling tools really there? And are Pentanet liable to give you that kind of an opportunity? You know, obviously you can put the ball delivery system on Aladoric or on Appy or on Babib. Any one of those 3 can really dive into the back line. But it's about getting on to the back line to begin with, not getting cancelled by Decoy, and also surviving long enough to enable Halo that opportunity, and hoping that Pentanet is all standing together.
So
because they're quite spread.
Watch Decoy if we do it at 1x speed in this fight, because the door comes up, and putting the door up actually, I believe, blocks Halo's attempt to use the absolutely never mind anything I just said. Let's just focus on the game at hand, shall we?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot to focus on here. Pentanet still just in the lead. About 1,000 gold advantage. We're going to have another pause coming through. I think we're having some issues. That's fine. More time for the Elfish Guy and Rusty podcast. You know, maybe we should start one. We probably get a few viewers. But 3-0-3 right now for Praedith. He hasn't actually gone for that tank build. So this is something that we were sort of discussing a little bit earlier on. You know, you look towards maybe something like the Wit's End or the Randuin's Omen coming through for the Kog'Maw. And that might have been an option if Chaz was going to be the one receiving a lot of the assistance. But if you've noticed in a lot of these fights, it's actually been the Whimsies, been the shields coming down onto Biopanther more so than onto Chaz, which definitely seems to be working out for Pentanet. So he doesn't need that extra tankiness, and so he's able to essentially go for more damage.
Yeah, I mean, that's spot on what it is, right? Like, he's gone for the Gale Force build, is using his mobility as a means to keep himself alive, and just pot shots for damage where he's able. And I think Chaz, besides the laning phase, has had a really solid game individually. And then Praedith is the one being protected by not just the Lulu shields that we have been seeing, obviously going onto him, but the Braum standing in front, actually preventing anyone from getting damage or allowing the Kog'Maw to crowd control them himself through auto attacks. So I think they're playing their comp out quite well, particularly into their opponent's champions, where the best means of engaging for them being a Nocturne, he can't hard commit because he instantly dies, just gets stunned and goes down straight away. Xin Zhao's the exact same, because they're going to be inside the circle where he's engaging and they'll one-hit him. And if they're struggling to engage and actually have that sticking power, then there's no way for Halo on Orianna to actually just walk up, right? No mobility on that champion compared to the other two. He takes an extra 2 seconds to get to the fight to position himself for the shockwave. We've never really seen that happen just because of how much damage there is onto the front line of Peace.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying actually what we're seeing from Decoy. I feel like he's kind of being the unsung hero at the moment for Pentanet, right? He's really the only super reliable peel tool. I suppose obviously Biopanther is there with the wild growth as well. But it does feel like Decoy's doing a lot to sort of shut down a lot of the engagers here from Peace. I mean, his ultimates have been generally quite good. That Glacial Fissure, very, very difficult to run through. And when you've got, I mean, let's be real, like, Appy closes the distance fine. But past that point, if Aladoric or Babip aren't really quite close by to Pentanet, they're not really able to follow up on that. And then life is even more difficult for Halo and Violet. I mean, unless Violet decides he wants to just jump in there with ulti, but God forbid, you know. So I'm seeing a lot of instances where Peace are really just having difficulty kind of closing the gap, and Pentanet are quite happy to sort of play that game of cat and mouse and really dance around on the edges of where they need to be. Yeah,
which, like, to be perfectly honest, is a sign that they're not really set up properly ever. They've snuck Barons, right? They've been successful in sneaking Barons, but they've been late to most of the Dragons. Their vision control is always walking into the wards that are placed by Pentanet, and it's never really felt like they've been forced, PGG have been forced to walk into them. So there is no actual layering of crowd control. There's no comboing of abilities. And Peace definitely have been struggling with cohesion and coordination in those team fights, you know, and where those fights are happening. And if that was cleaned up more, this would probably be a very different game.
Well, we're back in the game as well. That's lucky. Good to see how this one ends up panning on out. And it does feel like a long time since Pentanet got that Infernal Soul, but we haven't actually really seen it yet. You know, there hasn't really been a team fight yet where Pentanet have had that Infernal Soul. So we'll see how quickly Peace just blow up if Praedyth gets rolling. One more interesting thing to note, Juves always likes to talk about the tab check, and a couple of stopwatches here for Chaz and Praedyth. So it's that point in the game where one fight will win you the game, and that one stopwatch, that one 650 gold investment could completely change how that fight plays out. So it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on as to whether or not Peace recognize that and don't overcommit for the kill onto Chaz or Praedyth and then find themselves in a spot of bother when one or two of them go golden.
You want to know the funny thing is I think they've had those stopwatches for like 10 minutes. They just haven't had a need to use them with how well they've been winning those team fights already. But like, you are absolutely correct. Those are the do or die items that you purchase, the 600 gold for the team fight that's about to happen. And I think that's what they did. Then they just won too easily for the next 10 minutes.
Seems fair enough. It's good news. I mean, if you've got it in the back pocket, it's always that get out of jail free card. At least it feels like it. In this fight, Praedyth does have Cleanse available. Not quite having the flash online. It'll be up relatively soon, though. I don't know that he's going to have the time.
The crit build on Kog'Maw is so gross when it starts getting ahead. And like, you get to this point in items, it's what, 80% crit for him now? You've got a Lulu backing you up there. It's not going to be an Ardent Sensor. It's the Mikhail's Crucible, but you know, they've got the double cleanse now for these carries.
Well, this could be dangerous. Chaz jumps forward, so does Decoy. The flashes are in, so is the Glacial Fissure, but nothing is connecting apart from Solar Flare. Aladoric slowed down and stunned up. The Braum passive too powerful this time. In the meanwhile, though, Appy has found himself an inhibitor, but
they're going to stop that base. They're going to stop the Tristana from basing there, so they are going to buy much more time. Look at Appy. Teleport's being forced here. This could be the play. It got cancelled.
The TP got cancelled. This could be huge. Halo, Appy, they might just finish the game right now, Rusty. I don't believe it. That turret not quite going to go down in time. It's Biopanther. But what's he going to do? He's a Lulu. He's up in the air. He's going to die. It doesn't matter. The Nexus is going to go down. Peace have found the victory from the jaws of defeat. I don't even know what to say. Halo's dabbing. Get that off my screen. Unbelievable. I can't really see. I can't talk.
We just spent 37 minutes building up to the comeback, the late game team fights from Pentanet.gg, and then just right in their faces, just pushing it aside. Then, you know, the ways that they prepared earlier while they were ahead in the game, the towers they took down, suddenly they find one avenue, you know, a single point of entry to maybe win the game. And just like that, you know, they're stopping recalls, they're cancelling teleports, and then they just do it. Just snap decision seems to be where Peace shines the most, those instant calls.
Yeah. there was 2 attempted teleports back. Biopanther and Chaz both tried to TP back. Obviously, Chaz got cancelled. Biopanther got there, but what's the support Lulu going to do solo? Mac, you must have a few thoughts on that one. Rusty, so far, 100%
How good
pick
am I
rate.
at predictions?
How's he done it again?
It's unbelievable.
Look, all I want to say, Appy on the back door, knock, 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 open up. He's coming in and he's closing out the game. Damn, that's a feel-good moment for Peace. You could see Halo. I felt kind of sorry for Halo because he was the only one not in the team house, not in the big group hug with the boys, but you can see just how much it meant to him.
He was having enough fun on his own, Mac. There really didn't need to be anyone else there for him.
Ah, what a good game. Now, that was absolutely crazy. We will have a quick look at the hashtag #SendIt replay here, provided by DoorDash, just as my dinner is. And look, action, if you wanted some, you bloody got some, and this is only the first game of the day. Peace. For Bip, it seemed like he was the key piece of the puzzle to get Peace across the line. But there was so many points there where it could have gone either way. It was such a strong early game coming out from Peace. But then Pentanet, you know, they scaled a little bit better. They started to get back into it. But Peace, they realized that, so they were just trying to force fights at many, many different moments. Managed to get that Baron away from Pentanet as well, which might have been the game changer for Pentanet, but they just didn't get there in time. So, all things considered, very good job from both teams. Honestly, I want to hear from Pentanet what's going on, because I'm wondering if this was just a matter of Peace playing their A game from beginning to end, or if Pentanet dropped the ball. You don't want to take it away from Peace, but you know, if you want to put your money where your mouth is, Peace have certainly done it there, and you can see Halo. Oh, he was having a damn good time right at the end.
I mean, it was a great win for them.